What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I want to continue my conversation surrounding the 4 teaser trailers for Avengers Doomsday. As before, there will be spoilers for all 4 of those trailers, and I will leave a link to those trailers down below, as well as some minor spoilers for the general state of the MCU as it now stands. If you haven't seen Fantastic Four First Steps, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Captain America 4, and the Thunderbolts, then you should probably get out now if you don't want those spoiled. However, if you haven't seen some of those movies and you don't care to see some of those movies, that's okay. I understand. They aren't all the best movies. But either way, those are some of the big movies we'll be talking about today, and there'll be some minor spoilers for each one of them. But let's get into this video. So if you haven't seen my first video called Trailer Responses, I highly recommend you go watch that first because a lot of what I'll be talking about will directly relate back to that video. But otherwise, have fun. This is going to be focused on me speculating on predictions for Avengers Doomsday based on the trailers. This isn't going to be directly taken from any of the trailers, just kind of, okay, this happened in that trailer, so big picture, what could that mean on a larger scale? And I'm excited to do that today. Also, I will be referring to the trailers in their release order, which I have up here on screen, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you aren't aware of that, well, now you are. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about are the characters that were shown in these trailers. Because if that's anything to go off of, I'm curious if these trailers are indicative of these characters playing a bigger role in Avengers Doomsday. Like, I don't think you show Steve Rogers and Thor if they aren't going to be very big players in this movie. But then again, these trailers do lack most of the Fantastic Four, Sam Wilson's Avengers, and the new Avengers, all of which are groups we know will be in this movie. So I guess we'll see. But if we compare this movie to Avengers Infinity War, that movie had probably about 5 or 6 main characters that were the focal points for that film. I'd imagine that this movie is going to be very similar. Even though it has a large cast of characters, most of them are going to be pushed to the sidelines while the focus will be on only a few, just like in Infinity War. And it would make sense if Thor and Captain America were focal points, and even the X-Men. Those are all big-name characters in the comics. But I kind of don't think that Shuri, M'Baku, and Namor are going to be those big main characters. Like, they could be, and they might even make that work really well. But I would kind of like the spotlight to be on some other characters, like Sam Wilson, Captain America, Loki, Scott Lang, Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, who are a little bit bigger, in my opinion, than Namor, Shuri, or M'Baku. I mean, I guess Namor is pretty big, and I do want to see more of him, but it's interesting. What I will say is that despite Sam Wilson's absence, his character arc is probably going to be heavily tied to Steve Rogers in this film. So you could argue that the first trailer is hinting at how Sam will interact with Captain America. There'll be a lot of talk about legacy. Does Captain America's child get the shield, or does Sam Wilson keep the shield? And how does Steve interact with all of them? That'll be really fun. Also, Loki was absent from these trailers. But again, trailer 2 heavily featured Thor, and that's his brother, adopted, but still brothers. And so, is that why Thor comes into this movie? I mean, we know Loki is currently holding together the multiverse. Does Doctor Doom cause problems with Loki, which results in Thor needing to come in and help or avenge his brother? I don't know. That's going to be curious. But of course, the biggest character absence from these trailers is Doctor Doom. Robert Downey Jr. coming back to play Doctor Doom was one of the biggest announcements Marvel has ever made. So you would think his character would be all over the place, but instead we still haven't seen an official shot of the character whatsoever. And that's fine. But it is interesting, especially since Infinity War was very much Thanos' story. Like, Thanos might not have had necessarily the most amount of screen time, but his journey was what we followed throughout the film. So you can imagine that a similar structure will take place in this film, which is why it's surprising that we didn't see any of Doctor Doom at all. However, I am kind of grateful that they're leaving us wanting more. Like, I want to see the next teaser trailer for Avengers Doomsday, if only to see Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom for the first time. That'll be exciting. And I do think they're going to have one more teaser before they release an official trailer, but I don't know. I think there's some rumors on that, but again, I try and stay away from rumors for the most part. Regardless, I now want to talk about some of my predictions that directly relate to specific trailers. Let's dive into it. So, the first two trailers showed Captain America and Thor having children, and Iron Man already has a child, Morgan Stark. So I think it's very clear that Morgan is going to come back in some way, shape, or form. I mean, she was created back in the last movie, Avengers Endgame, that was also directed by the Russo brothers. So you'd imagine that they want to bring that character back, right? And I'm curious if she will be an emotional hindrance to this version of Doctor Doom, who I suspect will be a variant of Iron Man, so that would be her father, and she might have a very strong relation with that and a very strong connection to him and a desire to try and help that character despite all the evil atrocities that he will undoubtedly commit in this film. Plus, Mr. Fantastic also has a kid who was hinted at being very important at the end of Fantastic Four First Steps, so that's interesting. Children might be a very big part of Avengers Doomsday. And I know I talked about it earlier, but I do want to be very clear. I do believe that Steve's baby will be grown up for most of this movie. I think the scenes we saw in the first trailer will just be a prologue or a flashback for the main story, but I guess we still don't know for sure. However, I don't think you show a baby and make this big reveal without developing that into a fully fledged character for the movie. But who knows? Next, with the second trailer surrounding Thor, the one thing I want to say here is that I'm hopeful that Beta Ray Bill can finally get his MCU entrance. He's a character we've all been wanting for a long time. We thought we were going to get him back in Love and Thunder, but they completely missed that. Did not do that at all. It's fine. There were a lot of hammer-wielding characters in that movie, so I guess you don't want to overstuff it, but whatevs. Point is, there's a possibility that he shows up. He takes Stormbreaker from Thor. I'm still excited to see Beta Ray Bill, is all I'm trying to say. There's literally no basis for him coming in based off the trailer we saw, but that's not to say it couldn't happen. We'll see how it happens. We'll see how it works. The one thing I'll say that kind of relates to the trailer is maybe Beta Ray Bill takes on the mantle of warrior and Thor, allowing Thor to rest and become a father that he wants to be. I don't know. Could happen. When it comes to the third trailer, the one interesting thing I can kind of synthesize is that everything in that trailer hints at an older X-Men universe. An X-Men universe that has seen some things. Whether it's the older actors not being de-aged, or the foreboding voiceover by Charles, or the X-Mansion in disrepair, or the tease of what I believe is a Sentinel foot in the background of this shot. This is an X-Men universe that's in its twilight years, and I think it's probably going to die. I mean, they need to make room for the new cast of characters for the MCU's longer-running take on the mutant saga. However well-cast Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, and James Marsden were, they're all kind of too old for their respective parts. I think it can work great in this movie, but I think if you don't kill off their characters, if not their entire universe, it's going to be very hard to tell a mutant saga story that spans multiple years, if not an entire decade, like the Infinity Saga. I mean, honestly, I'm still a little sad that we have to go back to these original castings of James Marsden, Ian McKellen, and Patrick Stewart, and that the MCU absolutely failed on bringing in the X-Men earlier, because had we had one or two movies with a new cast of characters, they would have been much more preferable to older characters. Personally, that's what I think. However, I still am excited that James Marsden might get redemption as Cyclops. I think that's very possible for this film, as well as seeing more of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen play Magneto and Professor X respectively will be really, really fun. So I'm excited for it, but there's a part of me that wishes they could have been recast already. But with the current state of the MCU, I understand why they're doing what they're doing. So overall, excited for the X-Men in this universe, but a little sad that they're meeting an apocalyptic end yet again. With the third trailer, there is the question of, is this universe that will be in Avengers Doomsday be a direct continuation of the 2000s movies? And honestly, I don't know. We have the iconic Professor X wheelchair, as well as the same signpost used in those movies. And from the chair trailer, we know that much of the cast of X2 is coming back. However, the X-Men universe is incredibly convoluted, and the most recent movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, did nothing to help that. Opposing this theory that this is the same universe as the 2000s films, in the Avengers Doomsday universe, the X-Men wear their comic-accurate attire. which is something they never did in the 2000s movies. And it looks like Sentinels attack and destroy their world. Hooray, another apocalyptic end for the X-Men universe. Just like Days of Future Past, Logan, and Deadpool and Wolverine. So, who knows? Ultimately, I don't think it matters whether it's the same universe or not. I think we're going to get a refresher on the X-Men world and who their characters are, and that's all we really need to know in order for the Avengers Doomsday movie to make sense. Right? Right. But going back for a second to the redemption for Cyclops' character, for those of you who don't know, his character was not very well adapted in the 2000s movies, nor when they brought him back and they recast him, Ty Sheridan, I believe, for X-Men Apocalypse, as well as X-Men Dark Phoenix. He really wasn't used that well in any interpretation. So I'm hoping that this movie gives that character some much needed redemption, because he's a very, very cool character and has the potential to make a big splash in this film. So I hope that Cyclops gets the focus for the X-Men storyline, and the focus is not put on Professor X or Magneto, because we've seen a number of movies that have, dive deep into the opposing ideologies of Professor X and Magneto and their friendship throughout it all and all that stuff. It's great, it's powerful, it's told some good stories, but it already has done its work. We've never seen a Cyclops story be really exciting, so I really hope Cyclops gets the focus in this movie. But again, who knows? This trailer didn't reveal a whole lot. We'll see what happens down the line. Also, as of yet, Hugh Jackman has not been confirmed or denied being in this movie, so we'll see if he shows up. And even if he has denied it, there's no guarantee of that because, well, we've all seen Spider-Man No Way Home at this point, and those actors vigorously denied their involvement in that movie, but I digress. The point is, I do hope that if Wolverine makes an appearance in this movie, it's very small and he doesn't take over, because despite my love for Wolverine as well as Hugh Jackman, I do not want his character to take over the X-Men plotline yet again, like he's done in so many other X-Men movies. But again, I digress. Moving on to the fourth trailer, I think there are two interesting things that I want to talk about. One is that Talokan, the water is being removed. So I'm very curious if that means that Doctor Doom is going to attack Talokan, if they're coming to the surface to try and help fight Doctor Doom, or if there's some other reason that this water is being removed. Maybe the multiverse is having issues and breaking down, and that's being shown by water from one planet being completely removed to another planet. I don't know. It's weird. It's comics. It can be whatever it wants to be. Either way, I'm very curious what this means for this movie. And I think it's possible that Doctor Doom is attacking Talokan and that there's like a MacGuffin in that city that he needs for some reason or another. Who knows? It's going to be curious. Secondly, with Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, coming to meet the Wakandans, it makes me think that maybe the Fantastic Four are kind of on top of the multiversal threat. Or at least the messengers. Maybe they're playing the same role as Bruce Banner did in Infinity War, where they're like, Thanos is coming, but in this case they'd of course be saying, Doctor Doom is coming, or something like that. I don't know, but either way, what we do know is that the Fantastic Four's spaceship jumps universes and appears in the main MCU universe at the end of Thunderbolts. So, are they coming to visit and warn us of Doctor Doom? Has their universe already been destroyed by Doctor Doom and now they're trying to rally other universes? I don't know, but I'm very curious about everything that'll happen around there. And I think Ben meeting the Wakandans could be him being like, hey, I need your help. You guys, I was told you guys would be down to help. And they're like, yeah, we're willing to help because we're Wakanda and we're awesome. And that could work. Plus, Doctor Doom is a main villain of the Fantastic Four. I mean, he is their arch nemesis, literally. So it makes sense that their characters would take center stage. If they're the ones organizing and bringing together all the various universes to fight Doctor Doom, that would be really, really cool. So I think that might be what happens here. But again, we don't know. We'll see. So if these predictions are anything to go off of, I think I'm very excited for Avengers Doomsday. I think that's very safe to say. And it's true. I cannot wait for this movie. It is a very ambitious film, but I believe that they can pull it off. They did Infinity War. I think they can do this movie. I think they can do it justice. I think they can bring together all these teams, all these characters, and make a fun, compelling story for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think it can be a really good way to bring fans back in. And as long as they have a clear and good plan moving forward for for a mutant saga, which I think is what they've hinted at being the next saga, then I think I could be back on the MCU train and back fully invested in it. I mean, I've never really gotten off. I've watched most of the movies in theaters. The only time I really checked out was for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, as well as the Marvels. But the thing is that the MCU needs to get this right? They're putting all their cards on the table here. Literally, they're pretty much called in their entire cast of characters, all their A-listers, and that's a big challenge. It's going to be challenging, but I think they can do it. And these trailers have got me excited for this movie, so I can't wait for Avengers Doomsday. I want to know your thoughts. What do you think these trailers mean for the larger Avengers Doomsday movie? What do you think they could be indicative of? All those thoughts down in the comments below. I'm super interested. But that's Vanilla Nerd signing off for now.